It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Mike Gardner is back. He is a member of the Riverside City Council, also a member of the California Seismic Safety Commission. And I am sure you are very pleased with a recent announcement out of Washington, D.C. Senator Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein, Congressman Adam Schiff, both Californians, have managed to secure $5 million of federal funding for a West Coast early warning system.
Yes.
Tell us what that means.
Well, there is actually two smaller systems that are linked to some degree now, one Southern California, one Northern California. We know that the system functions and works. It needs more sensors to provide adequate warning over an earthquake originating in other parts of California.
Right, this is a large, long state with several faults.
Yes, and actually some of the more damaging earthquakes we've had in recent years were on faults we didn't know were there.
And we know that we keep finding them day in and day out.
So you need an array of instrumentation near where earthquakes may originate, and that may or may not be on a fault that we know about today.
What's surprising to me is other cities that are earthquake prone, Mexico City, many cities in Japan, they have pretty robust early warning systems, more dynamic than we have.
They do.
Why? We're America, if I may be so jingoistic.
Yeah. A couple of reasons. One is the Japanese have been so technology oriented for so long, and they have more big damaging earthquakes than we do in the United States.
And let's talk about Japan if we can, because as our viewers may remember, Riverside has a sister city arrangement with the city in Japan called Sendai.
Right.
Sendai was the metaphoric epicenter for the tremendous damage of what's known as the Sendai earthquake. That's really where the tsunami did its most severe damage. So I feel like, you know, it's serendipitous, but you do have a lot of kind of insider information on this because of your relationship with Sendai.
I do, and in fact, the Japanese Consul General happens to be a native of Sendai.
Oh,
his office is in San Francisco.
Got it. And so, as I understand it, you recently were part of receiving a presentation from the Consul General of Japan about their early warning system. I mean, you know, it's very formal. If I can hold this up, an earthquake early warning system in Japan, presented by the Consul General. I mean, this was a very formal presentation, and we thank them for that. What did you learn from his presentation?
There were several things that I thought were of some value. I may know more about earthquake early warning systems than the average person just because of my connection to the commission, but there were a number of things that I thought were important in his presentation, and most of that deals with how the information is used and how different bodies that receive the information choose to receive the information.
And let me ask you, because I don't have a sense as to what would happen if even the system we have in place, if it triggered something, would all of a sudden I start hearing sirens? And I don't know if I would know what that would mean.
Well, and that's not set up in California yet. Right now, the two receiving points for our two systems, one is at Caltech in Pasadena and one is at UC Berkeley.
Got it.
And they receive the information, and it's really more demonstration at this point. There's not much they can do, even for a distant, very large earthquake.
But for example, I think about Berkeley. I mean, they have a very significant transportation system in the Bay Area. BART. Would Berkeley be able to contact BART and say, we got 15 seconds to shut down?
There's not time to do that. For the system to work, it needs to be all automated. And when the system is really functional, different users, BART as an example, or Metrolink here in Southern California.
Or the high-speed rail, which appears to be happening. I mean, I presume they need to be ready for it.
Any user can elect to receive a warning and then adapt their system when that warning comes to do the right thing.
Which would be shut down.
Which could be shut down. For trains, it could be slowed down. And it depends on how intense the shaking is anticipated to be.
So is our goal with this early warning system, and we'll talk more about how much money we need to put it in place, to create a scenario whereby we'd hear the sirens. I mean, is that what happened in Japan? All of a sudden, the sirens went off pre-Sendai?
Most of Japan, I don't think they have sirens. They have tsunami sirens.
Okay.
And of course, that was associated with that particular earthquake.
Right.
But for the earthquake, most of it is going to be electronic to cell phones and warnings that pop up on television screens, similar to a flash flood warning or something like that.
So help us out. And I asked this because I was telling my daughter, who's 12, that we were going to be speaking, and she said, Dad, I don't know what I would do if I got an early warning. What am I supposed to do? And you know, and then she said, well, wait, I should run into an open field, or I should go under a table. You know, I didn't have the right answer.
Second one is right.
Under the table?
Duck cover and hold on.
Right.
If you're a surgeon in the middle of a procedure, you put down the scalpel.
Right, right.
It can do things like have elevators go to the next floor and open the doors.
Exactly.
Open fire station doors because they can jam, trapping equipment inside. They can extricate themselves, but you lose time.
Sure. So let's talk about funding. No doubt $5 million is a nice amount of money. It jumpstarts the project. There had been some seed money to research, I guess, but now this is actually for a rollout. But as I understand it, it's not enough.
They're estimating about $30 million to build a system. We may be able to save money on that because the state geologist has a large number of instruments in the field that may be able to be tied to the system rather than build new.
I have to be honest with you. When I think about a state budget of over $100 billion? Am I saying that?
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a lot of money.
It is not a lot of money. The legislation.
30 million? That doesn't seem like a lot.
The legislation in California said to plan for a system and design a system, but don't spend any general fund money.
I remember that. So
that's the law in California today.
But now that we're a little more flush with money in California, Prop 30 and better economy, can we get that law changed, sir?
I think that's possible. I think that a substantial funding source is going to be the large end users of the information. Utility companies, refineries, railroads, Metrolink, BART up north.
I mean, if the federal government can top $5 million, which again is not a huge sum for them.
No.
Is it a match program or not specifically?
It's not specifically a match program as I understand it. I think there is real value in having the end users participate in the funding because they need some control over how the information from an alert or a warning is used. You don't want to mandate, or at least I think, you don't want a mandate that says if there is a warning in an area, you shut off all the gas meters.
So where do you go from here as a member of the commission, which acts as in an advisory capacity? I mean, the commission is a perfect entity to advise on this question. Where do you go from here?
The commission is an active, in California, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services is the entity that is charged with pulling together the early warning system. The commission has a role, we're an active player in that, and I chair the user group.
The end users
subcommittee,
you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, come on.
So
get cracking. You're the man.
We're getting there.
What do they
we
say?
actually are setting a meeting for shortly after first of the year with some of the key groups.
If you need to raise $25 million, I don't want to count, the end user's money, but again, that doesn't seem.
It's not a huge amount of money,
right.
and it can save substantially. It also, if it's misused, and the reason I mentioned shutting off gas meters, if you shut off gas meters when you don't need to, the gas company doesn't want you or I to relight our pilot lights.
What about? I understand it's about $12 million a year to operate. Is that something the end user should support?
I think that can be a mix, a public-private partnership between the state and the major end users. And at some point, I think there will be a connection with broadcast media, radio, television.
We've been talking about this for a while now. Are we close? Are we finally, do you see the finish line?
I think we are getting close.
His name is Mike Gardner. He's a member of the Riverside City Council, also a member of the California Seismic Safety Commission. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.